Hello folks, it is April the 13th, 2021, and coming up on this week's episode of This Week, we're going to have a little look at Formula One as racing gets back underway this weekend in Imola. We're going to look at Formula E, some MotoGP, big news there, and some Indycar action and some NASCAR as well. Oh, and I'm going to bake some cookies. All coming up this week on this week's episode of This Week. Hello then folks, and welcome back to This Week. Welcome to my kitchen. I know I said I was going to take you for a walk this week, but I've left my packing too late for Imola, and we were supposed to be baking goods for each other, and I've left it right to the last minute. So I'm trying to cook vegan cookies while I deliver to you news of the week just past. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for your follows, subscriptions. Thank you for hitting the notification bell, buying the merch and all of that, but mostly just for your support, for your comments, for all of your questions. Keep them coming. As I say, I do read every single one. We're going to start. Look at that, plant-based butter. We're going to start looking at Mercedes because they have shaken up their technical department as James Allison has moved into a role away from his traditional day-to-day job as technical director at the Mercedes Formula One team. He will now be the chief technical officer, with Mike Elliott stepping up into the technical director role that James had carried so successfully over the last few years. James's contract was always due to be up at the end of this season, so it's a benefit and it's a real positive for Mercedes that James is staying on board, and it also allows the team that sort of evolution to allow the technical department to evolve and to grow towards the new regulations that come into the sport in 2022. The team's also stated that it is going to have to make a decision really soon over when to shift its focus away from 2021 and into 2022 with those new regulations. It's admitted it can't afford to have a bad year in 2021, but equally can't allow itself to start on the back foot for 2022, and all of this seemingly in a season when it appears that it's already playing catch-up. Now, Ferrari's had a busy week. Well, Charles Leclerc's had a busy week, we should say. Back behind the wheel of an old Ferrari at Fiorano. So yeah, keeping himself fresh behind the wheel. Also, he had his first race-winning Ferrari delivered to him, 125 grams, perfect, in Monaco. I thought it was going to have to go into his house like his piano did, using a big crane to lift it off the street. But obviously he's got no room in his apartment for a Formula One car. Who does? It's gone instead to the Prince's Museum in Monaco. That is where it will live from now on. Also, some positive comments coming out of Charles over Carlos and the positivity that Carlos's arrival at Ferrari has sort of brought into the team. So yeah, really good vibe currently going down at Maranello. Now, Alpine believe that Bahrain was kind of an outlier for actually the worst aspects of their car, exposing sort of the inherent weaknesses that they believed to exist in the car, particularly in the heat. 100 grams. They are bringing upgrades for Imola, which they hope will give them the tenth of a second they need to kind of catch up to the rest of the midfield. But then again, same words, same sort of feelings and hopes are coming out of all the teams in the midfield as we move towards Imola this weekend. All of them bringing upgrades, all of them hoping to sort of condense that pack together, particularly Tauri, who are hotly tipped for a decent run at their home race in Imola. Tauri also announcing this week that they will be using wine. Yes, wine to heat their factory, believe it or not. The factory at Faenza will be using green electrical energy generated from 100% renewable sources, which includes energy from wine production and local garden waste from a nearby vineyard. So yeah, pretty amazing. The system is going to be in place by the autumn for AlphaTauri, but watch out for them. They could be hugely competitive this weekend in Imola. In Saudi Arabia, the track build for the Jeddah circuit, which will play host to the inaugural Saudi Arabian Grand Prix at the end of the year, is well underway. Also, news as regards circuits and races. The Turkish Grand Prix apparently is on standby in case any of the proposed races this year can't take place because of COVID. So nothing confirmed there yet, but just on the off chance, Turkey apparently ready, willing and able to step into the fold. Indycar now, and it's been a really busy week for Indycar as pretty much everybody that's going to run at the Indy 500 tested at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Joseph Newgarden was fastest in the Penske with Takuma Sato and Juan Pablo Montoya second and third. This, though, with Montoya stating that he wasn't totally comfortable with the car, certainly not as comfortable as a third fastest time would appear. Scott Dixon was fourth fastest ahead of Graham Rahal, who actually set the fastest time without a tow. Connor Daly was sixth quickest and actually looked pretty hooked up all the way through the 2-day test. IndyCar, of course, kicks off this weekend at Barber Motorsports Park, and I, for one, cannot wait for the start of the season. In NASCAR, Martin Truex Jr. became the first driver in 2021 to win 2 races with victory at a delayed night race in Martinsville. Denny Hamlin leads the championship now on 379 points, from Truex Jr. on 303 and Joey Logano on 302. In IMSA, the Canadian round has been cancelled for 2021. Could be why F1 is considering having a standby race, given that racing over in Canada still appears to be a little bit sketchy. But yes, IMSA will have a second round at Watkins Glen instead of their Canadian round. Meanwhile, over in the World Endurance Championship, Glickenhaus sadly has confirmed that they will not be taking to the track for the first race of the season, as had been feared for some time. They will now instead make their debut with the 007 at the second round of the season in Portimao. Meanwhile, Ferrari and Porsche have both committed to the World Endurance Championships GTE Pro class until the end of 2022. In Australia, Supercars now, because they have opened their 2022 tender with 2 spots up for grabs. Meanwhile, the championship has confirmed that all 8 of its campsites will be open for the Bathurst 1000, meaning we are expecting a capacity crowd. Superhuman Superman Shane Van Gisbergen, meanwhile, has said he's off meds for all of his broken bits and bobs and crack this and crack that he's still dominating everything despite being a broken man. So yeah, can't wait to see how he fares when he's off his medication, because he's had quite the season so far. Into Formula E now, and Jaguar has confirmed. Vegan chocolate's all right. Jaguar has confirmed its continued participation in the championship through into its 3rd generation. And all this on a weekend when Jaguar took the lead at Formula E's Teams Championship with a brilliant weekend in Rome. Jean-Eric Vergne took one of the wins. Stoffel Van Dorn took the other win, but it was Jaguar with a double podium in the first race, who, as I said, leads the team championship after the Rome doubleheader, with Sam Bird and Mitch Evans leading the drivers' championship as well. So a great weekend for Jaguar all round. There are plans for Formula E also apparently to run the full Monaco Grand Prix circuit when the E-Prix takes place in Monaco later this year. And finally, when it comes to Formula E, I have to apologise, as not only did I forget the first week to give the results of the Esports Accelerate Championship, when I finally got around to it last week, I gave the wrong results, because while Venturi were team champions, it was, of course, Frederick Rasmussen who was drivers' champion. So my most humble and abject apologies for completely screwing that one up. All of which brings us to MotoGP, where Marc Marquez will be back in action for the first time, heavens, in almost a year. Marquez will be back in Portimao, having been given the all clear. Of course, he's missed the opening 2 rounds of the season, but it's not an insurmountable gap to Johan Zarco, the championship leader. 40 points is Zarco's points tally after the 2 races that Marc Marquez missed. The opening round of Super GT at Okayama was won by Yamashita and Oshima for the rookie racing team, putting the 2 Toms Toyotas, in fact it was an all Toyota podium, putting the 2 Toms Toyotas second and third on the podium. Meanwhile, in SuperFormula, Giuliano Alesi has been named as Kazuki Nakajima's replacement for the Suzuka round, as Nakajima will be testing for Toyota's WEC squad, and Japan's quarantine rules mean that he can't get back to Japan in order to go and race, probably for some time now, actually. Tomoki Nojiri leads the early championship standings, having taken victory in the opening round at Fuji Speedway. And that, folks, is just about that for this week's episode of This Week. Sorry, it has been done whilst cooking, but needs must. Now I must pack for the race week ahead. Thank you, as always, for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. I appreciate your support massively. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and we will see you next week for the next edition of This Week.